Alright, hello. This video is going to be Lab 13. So we'll have a link to it here, and the text document is here. Their correct working examples are in the usual place, and the way to get started is to run them. So I'm not giving you text here to describe what's supposed to happen, because you need to run the correct working examples. Let's start with one of them. So we'll go into the lab13 directory, and we can start with any of these. Let's start with lab13 IO. They all have this feature at the beginning. It says which of our C++ programs from class are example files to start with. So we'll run through the example and then take a look at what you're supposed to start with. Okay, and so it says hello, how are you, and this stuff in parentheses is just information about running the test. So responses to try, how well are you? I'll say well. The program says awesome, me too. What is your favorite movie? Harry Potter. In that case, Expelliarmus. Alright, I have to go. See you later. Bye. Alright, so this is just doing some couts and cins and some stuff with strings. Let's go to the program that it says to start as a starting point. Okay, so the input-output, you see there's cout and cin. So you can cout this stuff. So your program will first cout this stuff here, one per line, so that you can match the output as usual. You need to remember to have the using namespace and the pound include IO stream. You get to here, it's waiting for text input, that's cin, this is a string. Okay, so you're going to want to have something like string s, and then for that to work, pound include string, and we could do a cns, but that won't quite be enough, because that'll just read one word. And if you notice here, I typed Harry Potter and it read the whole thing, even though it's two words, and it responded based on the whole thing. So I will say over here, lab13 IO, so additional hints for reading one line at a time, which is what we're doing. Use getLine, the C++ version. There's a C version and there's a C++ version. Okay, so you'll use that instead of cin. It'll be something like getLine, and then something to do with s and something to do with cin. You have to look up what order an example of using it. Okay, so that should be reading a line, and then you also want to search inside of whatever they typed. So if you, let me run this again, and so if I say, how are you? Bad, today is awful. It responds to my bad. What is your favorite movie? My favorite movie is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Okay, so is it going to respond to the fact that there's Harry Potter inside of here, yes or no? It does. Alright, so how are you going to do that in your program? You're going to have one string, which is this line, and then you're going to have another string, which is Harry Potter, that you want to find inside. So you need to look up the C++ string and see what the options are. You can look here and you'll see a list. Find is the one, and you'll see an example. You can see other examples. I'll put this use string find function to look for bad and well in first response, and look for Harry Potter, Hitchhiker's Guide, and Lord of the Rings in the second response. Okay, so I will test your program with those combinations. They said bad or well in the first part, and they said Harry Potter, Hitchhiker's Guide, Lord of the Rings in the second one. And then there's no response to this, so you don't really have to worry about what that is. Okay, so that's for lab13 IO. Good luck. Let's look at another one of them. Lab13 will go files. And it says the starting point for that is the files, and the usage statement here is a file name, so I'll do the lab13 text file. And it says it's copying the file, and the copying is done. So we'll look at that. This is the .new file that was just created. Okay, so what it looks like this program does is it just creates an exact copy of the file that they gave as a command line argument with the new extension .new. And the starting point is this files.cpp. So in your assignment, you would do in your homework, you make your lab13 if you don't have one already, and you copy in this. And call it lab13 files. If we look at that, it already has this part here. It's going to open the file. So there's a file for input, there's a file for output, and this here reads a string at a time. So now instead of reading a string at a time, you will read either a line at a time or a character at a time. So that's something, either read one line at a time and write it out to F out, or read one character at a time and write it out. I think most of you could do this in C now. You've had enough practice. Now you want to do it with the C++ version of things. If you want to do it one character at a time, you would look at C++ read one character. And I believe this get function would work for you if you want to do it that way. Okay, so that's it. You're basically going to have, you just need to change this part here to either do a line at a time with getLine or a character at a time with get, and that should do it. Let's get back to the directory. See what else we have. Okay, lab13, we'll just go in the order that we have them here. Overloading. So this is coming from the operator overloading.cpp. I don't know whether it wants an integer or a string here, so let's just type an integer. Okay, and it looks like what it's doing here is Q1 dot top, Q1 dot bottom, so there's 1/2. Q2 dot top, Q2 dot bottom, which is 3/4. So this is reading in the numerator and denominator for a fraction. 1/2, 3/4, and then it's outputting what is 1/2 plus 3/4. One way to do that, so 1/2 plus 3/4, one way to do that is you take the 4 times the 1, you take the 2 times the 3, and then that is your new numerator, and your new denominator is 2 times 4. Alright, so that's the plus. The minus is the same but with a minus sign. Times is numerators divided by denominators multiplied by each other. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the starting points. So in the example from class, we had this rational top and bottom. There's a plus operator. There's an equal operator. And then in main, we set the top and the bottom to just some fixed values, and then we computed their sum and printed it. Okay, so now alright, in this overloading, we need to add operators to the rational class for minus, division, and multiplication. So that's something that needs to happen. And then you need to also read in Q1.top, Q1.bottom, Q2.top, Q2.bottom with Cin. And you need to compute each of the operations and print them. And if you look at the way they're printed here, this line here would be printed something like Cout Q1 plus Q2, because that's just text that's printed. And then you actually want to do the, say, Q3 dot top. Something like this. Okay. And I will be looking for you doing this in the classes. So you actually do need, note, you do need to use the file as it was. Right, so it's not just matching the output, it's also adding the operators to the class and then using it. Okay, so that is the operator overloading one. Let's look at the stack. Segmentation fault. So this is our starting point over here. Let's take a look at that to see what this was, remember what it was. It's saying to start with stack.cpp, but that doesn't actually exist, so it's this one. That was just a mistake. This was the one where we had we were using a stack to do reverse Polish notation on our arithmetic. So if we do lab, let's go back to that. So this one we had, if we did 3, 4 plus 2 times. What it does is it pushes the 3 and the 4 on a stack. When it gets to the plus, it pops them off and adds them. So then we would have a 7 on the stack. 2 gets pushed. When you get to a times, it pops off the 7 and the 2 and gives us 14. There was a reminder there that if you get some funny results, it's because, so if I do this, I get a problem because it's actually expanding the star as a wildcard, so you have to put quotes around it, or a backslash. Alright, let's go back over to the homework directory. And lab13 stack, let's do 3, 4 plus 2 times. We get the same result in the end, there's a 14, but now we have some printing about anytime there's a push or a pop. So we see the 3 and the 4. So the 3 and the 4 were pushed. There's pushing onto the stack 3, pushing onto the stack 4. When we get to the plus, we pop off the 4. So the 4 is on top of the stack. We pop it. We pop again. We get a 3. The plus, we're doing the plus operation. We get a 7. We push it back on. There's a 7. Then when we get to the 2, we push the 2. We get to the star. We're popping off 2 values, doing the star, and pushing 14 back on. So if we look here, everywhere that there is a top and a pop, we have a print statement. Everywhere there is a do operation, we say what we're doing. Everywhere there is a push, we have something. So that's actually should be one of the easier ones maybe. lab13 stack. We're basically just adding cout statements for push and pop. So push, pop, and doing an operation. Okay, not adding any actual new functionality there. Alright, then we only have one left, lab13 vector. And the starting point here is data structures that says type numbers, Control D to quit. So why don't we do 1.5 to 3.3, Control D. Okay, it prints the total, which is 3.8, and then for each of them, it prints the percentage of the total. So 1.5 over 6.8 is 22.0588. Alright, this was the data structures one, was where we used a vector to store some numbers. So if we look back at that one, we had a vector of strings where they were pushed onto a vector and then they were printed in reversed order. So that was the one we did in class. I'd have to go back and compile it again. Let's just do that. Hello, my name is Jeff. Okay, so, and then it printed it in reverse order. Jeff is my name, hello. Jeff is name my hello. Okay, so let's go back over to the one we were looking at in the homework. lab13 vector. So I had 1, 2, 3.5 or something. And so it adds them up, and then these numbers are all stored in the vector. That's the way you'll need to do it. So you get the total, and then you will go back through them again and print the percentages. So if we go back over to this example, we had a vector of strings, so now instead you're going to have a vector of doubles. Instead of having a string s, you're going to have a double. You'll still have this kind of loop here, so this loop will be the same. And then when you go back through, this one here is going in reverse order. It's starting with the index at the end, going as long as it's greater than 0, and going down. So with the homework problem, you'll have the usual way of going up. Probably you don't want to call this words, maybe you'll call it numbers, not size for the vector. Right, and then this would be, you want to make this a vector of doubles. And then inside of that loop, this one was printing just the word. Now instead you would print something like numbers bracket I divided by total, right, where you also have to compute the total, which would be another loop. Okay, so lab13 vector should be of double. Loop should read double. After loop, after the while loop, let's say the cin while loop, after that's done, we have a for loop to compute total. After total is calculated, read through the numbers and print percentages. So the first thing to do is just modify the code so that you're reading doubles. And that's it. Just read the doubles and that'll be it. Once you get that working, compute the total. Once you get that working, then worry about the percentages. And that is the end. So that's all of them. These will be graded in the usual way. You have to match the output exactly. Good luck.